Mr. Bridenstine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kendall, I wanted to ask you about the way we go about purchasing satellite communications, specifically commercial satellite communications, which we've been purchasing in mass volumes for about 13 years now, as things in the world have required us to do. We currently still buy ComSatcom on the spot market, one-year contracts, very inefficient, very expensive. Of course, this committee in the 2014 NDAA required your office to put forth a strategy to get to multi-year procurement to make things more efficient. Can you share with us where you are on that and how things are going?
I tasked my Assistant Secretary for Acquisition, Katrina McFarland, to work with the CIO on this issue. And it came to my attention originally because of one of our business board, advisory board studies. So I think we are very close to having a proposal. I have not been briefed with the final product yet. I'm told that they're ready to brief me. So hopefully within the next few weeks we should have a position on this that we can talk to you about.
One of the challenges that I've heard is we're purchasing ComSatcom with OCO dollars, which are year to year. So it makes it impossible really to do multi-year procurement when you don't know next year what the OCO money is going to look like.
That's largely to support, obviously, the wars in Afghanistan.
Right.
And I think it's appropriate use of OCO to do that. The issue I think we have run into in part is one that came up earlier, which was how we score, if we cut a multi-year business deal, how is that scored? Which is unfortunate because I think our process and our bureaucracy is getting in the way of us trying to do the smart thing from a business perspective, and we shouldn't allow that to happen.
As far as I agree with you that this is appropriate for support for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The question is, we know that there is going to be a demand for commercial satellite communications, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, in this region of the world. We know there's a baseline. Can we define that, and can we count on you to come up with a definition of what that is?
That's what I'm trying to get out of the work that's been going on. I mean, we have a certain baseline that we buy to. We have some organic capability, obviously. And then, of course, the spot market, as you mentioned, is expensive. So if we can forecast our needs with some confidence, we ought to be able to acquire some capability with a better business deal than the ones we're currently cutting. There might be some much smaller but still residual need to use the spot market occasionally. But I'd like to reduce the amount that we're relying on that. So I think we're in agreement on the goal here.
Sure.
Just a question of how we get there.
Can we, if we do come up with that baseline, can we move it out of OCO funding and move it into some kind of programmatic funding?
I don't know the answer to that. Let me take that one for the record.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for you right now.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate you doing that. Some other questions. I wanted to talk to you about some of the interoperability issues. As somebody who has spent a lot of time in these parts of the world and relied on satellite communications, when we purchase commercial satellite communications from the commercial sector, and then we have MilSatcom for the military sector, and they use different bandwidths, they use different waveforms, different, some are secure, some are insecure, encryption, anti-jam, all the different types of things that go into each system. And now we have some devices that are usable with some satellites and other devices that are not usable with the same satellites. We have a real interoperability issue, which goes to my point, which is, it seems to me we have to get to a place. Right now we have DISA purchasing ComSatcom, and we've got SMC purchasing MilSatcom. We've got to get to a place where we have one agency responsible so that we can have this interoperability, so we can actually maximize our efforts, maximize the ability of our warfighters to be effective. Can you address that? Is that an issue you guys have been looking at?
Yeah, we have. It's kind of a shared responsibility between myself and the CIO. What we have done in the past is gone out and tried to put every possible waveform onto some of our radars. The JITRS program, which you're probably familiar with, was an example of trying to spec every single waveform on every radio. I'm exaggerating slightly, but not too much. And we had to back away from that for cost reasons. So then we got to, okay, what do different people at different levels really need, and what's the best way to provide it? So I think we've made progress in that area, but I think we also probably have a lot more work to do.
Okay. One last question. I know I'm out of time, Mr. Chairman, so we'll just do this one for the record. But when it comes to hosted payloads for our satellites, we can leverage the commercial satellite industry in a major way when it comes to efficiencies, the efficiencies of the bus, the efficiencies of the truss structure, launch, the ground support mechanisms. All these things the commercial satellite industry currently uses, we could leverage that to reduce the cost and increase the capacity for our warfighters in the satellite area. So if you could respond, your thoughts on that for the record, that'd be great.
Very briefly, I agree with you. We do that to a degree now, but I think we can do it more. And as we need higher resilience because of threat developments in space control, I think we're going to want to diversify our assets in space more than they are today, and that's one way to do that.
Roger that, sir. I yield back.